I've made videos of this before, some pulls of it and riding in it, but just wanted to get the story of the car, the history of this particular car. We don't really give a fuck about all the facts about the car. You can look that shit up on Google, whatever. But what this has really been like to live with, how you got it, and what things that you've had to do to it.
So it started out when I was younger, when I was in high school. I used to work at Renan Performance, like sweeping floors, working on cars sometime. And my boss there had a Mark II Jetta with a VRT in it. And his on Racecast put down 514 wheel. So that was a fast car. And he took me for a ride in it like the second day. And from that day forward, I was just obsessed with the idea of having a turbo VR. There's nothing else I wanted more than that. For a while, I still have it in my basement. I was like gonna put together, I had a long block VR, but no harness, no transmission, you know, nothing else with a swap.
You had that before you bought this car?
Yeah.
No shit, I didn't know that.
I had this shitty 91 GL. I never drove it once or anything.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No shit.
That was gonna be the plan. It was an automatic like GL Mark II Jetta 4-door. It was tan, it was a little rusty, it was kind of shitty. But I wanted to turn that into like a 400 plus wheel horsepower, daily drivable VR turbo. I had a driveway to work in the winter, so that obviously isn't going to work out.
Yeah, that always sucks.
I ended up parting with the Jetta because someone else wanted it, and I got $800 for it, so that was cool.
Not bad, not bad.
But it was a running car, it just needed rust work. And then I was talking to, and in the meantime, I was talking to my old boss, Jake, about like collecting older like VR parts that he had lying around to try and piece something together. And he started suggesting to me some of his friends' cars that were just kind of sitting, like from years ago, that nobody was driving anymore, that they were just sitting on. And he mentioned to me this car, and I'd actually always thought Corrados were really ugly for the longest time. Like I remember driving one when I worked for him, and it was just a 92 VR, all stock.
They're definitely the black sheep of the Volkswagen family. These in Scirocco's, they definitely don't get as much love I mean, they didn't pump out as many Corrados and Scirocco's as they did Golfs, Jettas, yada yada yada.
Yeah, they only sold 17,000 of these in the U.S., so there weren't many to begin with.
So what was the history in this car? Like at one point it had a 1.8T.
This car's originally a G60. It's a 1990, and then for a while it had a 1.8 turbo in it with like some T4 turbo. I forget what. And I guess that must have been pretty fun. That was when this car was originally painted in 2005. That was from like a long time ago. But then the 1.8T blew up, and it got a VR swap.
It really is a nice interior. It's a really nice place to sit. It's like a German leather glove. It's like a Nazi soldier's glove up in here. That's what it looks like. Except for this wheel. Shit still has got to go. So I had a 1.8T. So you got it. It was sitting for a while. So the guy eventually he turbo to VR and swapped that, right?
And then didn't really do anything with it after that. Drove it like a bit on it. Just kind of, it was an unfinished project, and it sat for like 6 or 7 years, and then I picked it up.
So you got it after it had been sitting for 6 or 7 years.
Like a long time. Getting seldom driven. Like it would get driven a few times. But.
Yeah. Built not bought, bro. What about that? No, this was still an unfinished project when you got it, for sure.
And it still is to this day.
Like he did pretty much. That's another thing is I hate when people are like, oh, built not bought. If you have the means to buy a car that you really like that has some of the same things that you would install in the car anyways, why should you wait and start from scratch and go through all the bullshit if you don't have to? Like,
exactly, that's the thing is I had the money for this car at the time. I'd been sitting on it for a while. It was like maybe a almost 8-month process of me thinking about it every day, looking at pictures of it every day, just like, I need to buy this fucking car. How am I going to make it happen?
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, I saved myself a lot of time. This is how I'd want a Corrado's done up.
And you're still going to go through so many projects, and you're still going to, put your blood, sweat, and tears into the car. It's just that a guy had a similar vision as you, and he did a lot of the, hard work before you got it. And really, like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Since I've bought it, I drove the car all last year. I didn't really do much of it. I just kind of did some maintenance and drove it and got a feel for the car. And then this year I've been through all the suspension on this. The brake lines are all rusty, and I end up having to do those from sitting. But it's got new bushings in the rear beam, which are not really that fun to do, but that was something I had a lot of anxiety about, and
Really wasn't all that bad at the
really
end of the
wasn't
day.
that bad. But I had I had a lift and the tools to do it. So
Okay, so since you've owned the car, what has broken? Okay, so first off, how long have you had this car?
I've had the car for a little over a year now.
And what has broken on it? What kind of internet Corrado old Volkswagen things have actually broken?
So I've been through the Corrado trials and tribulations now, like doing shitty jobs such as like rear beam bushings, hood latch cable, which is common on these.
Okay, so your hood latch cable broke one day.
I had to cut it when I did the cooling system stuff because the adjuster was
okay,
seized.
yeah.
So I was forced to cut it. So I've been through just, shitty like VR cooling system problems, which I've now almost rectified all of it.
So and that was just still, most of it was maintenance, but you had, so the radiator is old as fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Corrados had this outlet, and it's made of plastic, and it sucks dick, and it broke, and that left you stranded. The heater core burst.
Heater core burst, and I just have looped heater core lines.
Which, okay, the car's from 1990. It was the original heater core. That, not a huge deal.
And it's a common problem with these Mark IIs, etc.
So, and you broke a front axle, right?
Broken
once.
Axle.
Which, so this car dynoed back in the day at what again?
419 wheel horsepower.
Okay, so that is definitely a decent amount of power right at the front axles.
And so before, this car was sitting on all the G60 running gear. So I had like Mark II 4-cylinder axles.
Okay.
It's 5 lugs swapped. But other than that, it was all the running gear from the original G60. Mark II control arms, knuckles, etc. So now I have
axle, heater core, radiator outlet. What else? Hood latch cable. What else is broken since you've had it?
None of the lights worked when I bought it, and I figured out the headlight situation. My turn signals and flashes are still not on.
Okay, so the Corrado's got some BMW syndrome. No flashers. Ha 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 ha. But really, in the grand scheme of things, for a car this old, it wasn't like it was, fucking rotisserie restored or anything like that. The guy he kept it well and put some go fast stuff on it. So tell us everything that is done to the engine anyways.
So engine wise, it's like a basically all stock engine minus it has a 9-to-1 head spacer.
Okay, so a little bit lower compression.
Junkyard VR. It has the stock O2A that came out of the swap car with a Pelican LSD, South Bend Stage 3 clutch, and a different flywheel.
Yep.
Drive shaft shop, 500 horsepower axles. It's got like an early Renan short runner, which this is basically just a bread box. So it's a bottom part of the stock runners with just a box on it. 2.25 inch intercooler piping, 4-inch intake, 1.8T style diverter valve.
So it's a really simple setup that anybody could replicate.
Very.
And in case people don't know, 12 valve VRs can handle a shit ton of abuse. Obviously, if you get a good example that was somewhat well taken care of.
It's really funny because some of these, just a junkyard VR will take a lot of abuse, which this one has, knock on wood.
Jake got how much? He got like 500 wheel on a stock bottom end with race gas.
Yeah. It was like 460.
Still though, the car made 170 horsepower when it was brand new.
Yeah, and
that's fucking awesome.
Mark II Jetta. That's pretty scary. It's pretty. It has a C2 440cc file. It's one of the old Jeff Atwood ones from like earlier 2000s.
So it's an old school chip, and it does run like super rich. But knock on wood, it's been working good enough so far. So check this guy out. That's sick. Yeah, get it, boy. Wouldn't that be tight if that was his dog in the back of that thing?
Right. That'd be sick. But the car's been, minus just like little problems I've had with it, it's been a very reliable car. I daily drive it for the most part. I drive it a lot. This weekend alone, I've put over 400 miles on it.
So you've had, and then you've had multiple trips in Massachusetts. You've taken it to Vermont for Wolfscart two times. You do have a daily, but I definitely see you drive this probably 70% of the time, opposed to the Unicorn original engine WRX.
It's if I can drive it, I will.
Yeah.
This is the case.
A lot of people,
that's sick. This car has some like physical imperfections from its age and how long it's been been looking like this, but that doesn't bother me much because it hasn't really depreciated more on the outside since I bought it, and I've put 14,000 miles on it. which I think is pretty good with very
Hell yeah.
few issues.
So before this, as far as cars that you owned and driven, the Mark IV was really your first like somewhat project car where you did little bolt-on things on your own. So you went from a relatively drivable, safe, everyday car that you could do little bolt-ons to, you know, potentially
and it was still fairly modern. You could buy parts for it everywhere, like,
to a, you know, black sheep, discontinued rare.
yeah, it's a very niche car to own. Like, you need to really, like, I've been trying to make an acquaintance with every Corrado owner around here, which I have with several, and you know, it's hard because these cars, it really takes two to make one if you don't have a really good one to start with.
Yeah.
And
but so far you've been okay with just the one.
It's been good.
Or you've had a couple that were cannibalized maybe to help keep this thing fresh.
There's several Corrado's parts that live on.
Oh, okay. So tell us what happened.
Last year I was on the highway and I got cut off by a texter and I ate a guardrail. And the whole
goddamn dirty texters.
If you come over to the left side,
don't text and drive.
I ended up taking out a guardrail that beat up this fender, the door, and the rear quarter. But luckily spared the bumper.
You cannot. They did such a good job at fixing it. Like, you can't tell. You really can't. It's awesome. They did a really good job. So how fast were you going when the Prius drove you into the guardrail?
Like 75, 80. I was going a little slow. But it's relatively quiet. It's a mild-mannered car just driving around.
And what's the other quirky Corrado thing is that you can't roll up both windows or roll them down at the same time. Okay, so let's go through this. Do we have a dome light that works? Okay. So we have two dome lights that work. The cluster works. Your coolant
level sensor.
Okay, so let's talk about electrical gremlins right now. So your coolant level sensor is faulty or just not hooked up.
Not hooked up.
And you don't really give a fuck anyways. You like that blinking red light. It makes you feel like you're in a race car. Radio, all the speakers work. Do the fog lights work?
Yep.
Hazards. Hazards don't work. Okay, so there's a little bit of gremlins here, but it's not like, you know, blown out of proportion like the internet says. Both windows. Bam.
So fast too.
Oh damn, that is a fast window. My Subaru window is slow as fuck, as you know. Sunroof works. Oh yeah,
a B3 Passat sunroof, so it has a glass sunroof.
Yep.
Corrado's all came with a metal sunroof.
So, got your medallion dangling. Cool. All right. So there's really no reason that you couldn't have this car and daily drive it. If it didn't have the body kit that it has, and maybe you had a little bit different suspension, I mean, it's not too unreasonable that you could even throw some snow tires on the car and you could get around just fine.
You really could.
You get plenty of weight on the front tires as long as you're not going to be able to bomb everywhere in the snow. But there's really no reason. It's still a comfortable, good cruising car. Shitty gas mileage, but you know, whatever.
It's the miles per gallon.
Right, exactly. So
it's
yeah,
the kind of car that owning it, I think every car enthusiast goes through this where you're like, oh fuck, I wish I had this different car, didn't have to deal with like some bullshit with, you know, said car. But every time I know that this is the right car when every time I drive it, it feels right. The way the steering feels, like the sound, just everything.
Plus, it's just so much more interesting than, okay, so 9 out of 10 kids your age are getting Focus ST.
Focus ST,
Subaru,
GT, like Mark V and newer GTI, stuff like that.
This is so much more interesting, so much more worth it, and it's really not breaking the bank too much.
No, I'm doing this on a budget right now.
So how much do you have actually in this car with the cost of the car?
I think with everything I put into this, I have like 11 or 12 G's in it.
Okay. That does seem like a lot. But it's a really clean example of a super rare car.
Fixing it like several times for like just shitty stuff that's happening in.
Yeah. But yeah, not too bad. So if you're on the fence and you can look, you're not trying to be some drift champion and you can look past the fact that it's front wheel drive. This is a fucking dope car. It will shit on a lot of things on the highway. And yeah, it's awesome. It's a great car to drive. Very cool. I wish that Volkswagen had made more cars like this instead of just economy, you know, people carriers. But yeah.